recently this past weekend, Avatar: The Way of Water, a movie that it seems like yesterday I saw at the Malco Theater in Bartlett in 2009, and I go back to that same movie theater to see the second one. So that's how long this has been between first movie and second movie, is when I first moved here to Memphis in 2009 to when I moved back here, essentially. That's how long the sequel was. So that's how long it took to get the sequel out.
No,
because
but it did feel that long. That movie it's a long movie.
it actually didn't feel that long at all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say not in a good way, but not in a bad way. But I want to get your thoughts on it first. What did you think of it?
I think I'm gonna say this.
You did see the movie, right?
I did. I saw it Sunday.
Okay.
I saw it Sunday. I literally got out of church Sunday and I went to see the movie. It was phenomenal. I think it was worth the wait. They did some things to me, in my opinion, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think this one was better than the first one. Mm-hmm. I think it was better than the first one. And again, James Cameron. That's the guy who directed it, right?
Yeah.
Yep. He hit the nail on the head. It was something that I think people who watched the first one and kind of like when I would watch the first one, I was young when it came out, so I didn't actually watch the first one until my teenage years. When I was 13 or 14, and I was like, bro, I'm kind of in love with this universe, and he gave the universe so much more depth and so much more meaning, and I'm actually excited to see what's going to be next for the Avatar world. What did you think about
it? No, it was not a cough fest. So, what did I think of the movie? I saw when I was young, and I was actually not well versed into what is now my video career as a video editor and a videographer. So looking back on it over the years as I got into my videography stages, the CGI still holds up in the first movie, in my opinion. In terms of the second one, now having that knowledge of what goes on behind the scenes and also video work and editing work, the first 20 minutes almost took me out of the movie so much. Here's why. Because for those that have seen the movie, there are some sequences, and I actually watched the first movie just relatively a few days before seeing this new one. They reused some shots from the first movie. Literally shot for shot reuse from the first movie, from the climactic battle of the last movie. They used for that train sequence from at the beginning of the movie that they sabotaged. They reused some shots in that movie, and also Flat Top Guy, now Blue. At the cliffside with the other birds and whatnot. Yeah, it's almost like that was. It's almost like ripped from the first movie, almost exactly in terms of framing and whatnot. So
now that you said that, I can connect that. Yeah.
So. It's again, I have to reiterate when I say what a bad movie is. For me, a bad movie is Batman and Robin. Mm-hmm. That is a bad movie. A bad movie is After Earth with Will Smith and his son. Yeah. That's a bad movie. A bad movie is Transformers 4 Age of Extinction. That's a bad movie where the script is horrible and that's just main thing. Story is horrible. Yeah. The story is not exactly copy and paste, but to me it feels that way. And maybe some of it is taken. Maybe my joy of it is taken out of it because relatively after the last one came out, the second one was originally supposed to come out in 2015. Right. And they had said that I forget the actor's name. We'll just dub him Flat Top Guy. Flat Top Guy that got shot with multiple arrows at the last movie. They said that him and whoever that redhead doctor lady.
The redheaded doctor.
They said back in 2012 or 2013, I can recall, on a movie show that I watch on YouTube, the John Campius show. Mm-hmm. They had said that via James Cameron and other outlets is that those two were coming back for 3, 4, and 5 for Avatar. And I'm like, how do you bring these folks back? Right. For Dr. Lady, I'm butchering on names here, but for her, it was reasonable because of how, if you remember the first movie, how her mind is within this spiritual realm of the Na'vi and whatnot. Yeah. With the flat top military dude, when they say he was coming back, I'm like, how? And then they kind of explain away in the first few bits like almost have a recreation of Jake Sully getting it in his avatar body. They almost have a similar way with this general. And then you're like, who is this guy? And then you find out. No, my mind process was you see the general on what's on the screen, and then you're like, so is he reporting to him?
That's
what pre-recorded, and then you put it together. It's like, so wait, so in this universe, which they didn't say in the first movie, again, it's a fictional movie in a dystopian universe. We get it. I get it. Is now they can take your mind data and plant it into an avatar body now.
Right. It just wasn't a clean connect. But I also was just like, I'm thinking all these guys are like finna go do a mission for him.
Exactly.
Then it finally hit 30 minutes later. Wait, that's him.
Yeah, it's him.
He's him.
It sounds like him. He has his memories.
Yeah.
And it just might as well be him, like reincarnated, essentially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The movie, I would say, is okay.
Okay.
It doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel slowly paced. I think with Jake Sully's family, I think the connection there was pretty cool, especially with their adopted daughter, who they also didn't explain in the movie. What was this doctor lady pregnant in the avatar body? They were about to tease it.
That's what I'm saying.
And then she had this seizure, and then this character had this seizure in the movie.
Right.
And it's like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I guess not until Avatar 3 we're going to find this out.
I feel like they dropped seeds for future movies. It's going to be like her storyline is going to be really important in the next movies. I got a feeling that Spider's storyline will be very important in 3 or 4.
I liked Spider.
Yeah, I did too.
He was really good. Yeah. Interesting.
But I'm also trying to figure out who's his mom?
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. It's like 2 children in the movie. It's like, what's their real lineage? And they even teased the girl, their adopted daughter, with when the redheaded lady's leaving that video and the guys behind her and all that. The other tall nerdier scientist.
Maybe they got a little get together hook up with their avatar bodies.
They say in Pandora is what happens in Pandora stays in Pandora.
Yeah.
But again, I think for me, him having a family just kind of gave the movie more layers.
Yeah.
And then even just I do think a little bit. I think with some of the family dynamic stuff, some stuff you could kind of see coming. I don't want to spoil the movie too much, but it's I feel like with some of the family dynamic of just of the siblings, it was something's gonna happen, you know?
Yeah.
But I think big picture, it's one. It kind of put. I think really this movie was a setup for the future.
And luck. You would hope they stick to schedule. James Cameron said that the third movie's 95% shot right now and set for a 2024 release date in December. So you would think that they would stick to schedule and that nothing else happens and we don't have to wait another 13 years for a sequel because I'm going to have children or I'm going to have a busted back by the time another sequel comes out.
Yeah, and won't be able to put on the 3D glasses.
I did not see this in 3D, by the way.
I actually did see it in 3D.
I saw the first one in 3D. Yeah. It was good.
Yeah, this in 3D, it was pretty interesting. Again, I think with the water shots, I was like, there's no way. I'm thinking the when I was like, I know that this is water themed, Way of the Water, and I put on the 3D glasses. I'm like, the most 3D elements they're gonna have is gonna be them splashing water. But no, really, they had 3D. The 3D elements were actually really cool. And I was watching a video, and my friend was explaining to me that they used 3D cameras when they were filming most of this movie.
Yeah, 3D IMAX cameras.
Yeah. So I think, I'm going to be transparent. I don't know much about production side of things, but even somebody who knows very little could appreciate how great this movie turned out with one, just, the whole element of actually filming stuff underwater.
Yeah.
Which I think that was a game changer. It wasn't the whole typical, let's just have rain pour down and then make everything look wet so everything looks shinier and better like that. No, it was actual high quality production went in to this movie throughout the entire thing.
Do you know who plays the daughter? The adopted daughter? The same girl from Alien.
Really?
Yeah. So she plays. She's an old actress.
Yeah.
But she's playing a teenager through CGI technology.
That's actually crazy.
So I found that out about a week before the movie was about to come out. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
It's okay, there's a James Cameron connection for you.
Yeah.
From his time with Aliens and whatnot. overall movie was a good movie.
He's getting up there. I'm hoping that they're gonna have to stick to schedule. They're gonna have to. It's like if he's gonna be a part of these, he's gotta they gotta do it like now. They gotta wrap this up before 2030. They've got to. That's how much time from.
Yeah, the schedule is every 2 years.
Okay.
The Avatar movies are gonna be coming out. That Disney essentially said to him, it's like after they purchased. That's actually one of the reasons that people say that they purchased Fox. It was because of Avatar.
Okay.
And whatnot. Is 20th Century Studios now, is that they bought that studio because of Avatar. Not the famous theory that fans want to go around is that, they bought 20th Century because they have Fantastic Four and X-Men. No, they also have the Home Alone franchises. Yep. They have Alien. They have Planet of the Apes. And then a whole bunch of other stuff. Die Hard.
Yeah.
And Avatar was like the crowning jewel for their streaming and also, which by the way, I can't help but think in this movie, they're like moments like, that in my mind, I'm like, that's something we'll have to discuss later in a sequel planned by Disney and whatnot. Yeah. So it's like, so-and-so doesn't get axed. Don't worry, he'll be back for the sequel. Which, before the movie came out, the producer did one of the stupidest things I could ever think of. Thierry, Zoe Saldana's, is that her name? Zoe Saldana?
Yeah.
Yeah, the actress's name. Mm-hmm. He said that in Avatar 4 or 5 that she's going to go to Earth. And I'm thinking, gee, thanks for spoiling the movie.
Yeah.
She's not going to, we know who's not going to die.
Right. Yeah, we know she's straight till movie 4.
Yeah.
At least. And yeah.
That's one of the dumbest things I heard before the movie came out. I'm like, and there were moments in the movie where it's like, is this now reincarnated general going to get his revenge on Thierry? And that moment where he realizes, he sees the arrow and the call signs, like, hey, Miss Sully.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, something going to happen at the end. But
in your head, you're thinking.
But I'm thinking, nope, she's not going to. But then again, he died and he came back. So maybe there's a reincarnation thing they're going to be pulling off of these Avatar movies.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's still somehow it's like that. He just wakes up on Earth or wakes up in their lab or whatever. But I did want to say this.
No, this better not be I just dreamed up all this stuff.
Oh, no. I hate movies like that. It's like you telling me I
watched.
No,
this never happened.
Yeah, never. We just woke up from a nightmare. That's it. Wow, yeah, to me that's some of the lowest level directing options. It's just they're be like, you make this great movie, then it's like, okay, well, how are we gonna conclude this? What if he's sleeping? It's like that's lame.
That's almost like how the Lost series ended. It's great series, and then they're all in this church somewhere. It's like, wait, is this the afterlife? Mm-hmm. What is this? Is this real? none of this was real. What's going on here?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a J.J. Abrams thing though. Yeah. So he's always like that with the Star Trek movies.
But there was something in Avatar: Way of the Water that I wanted to point out. They've kind of got a civilization built now in Pandora. Yeah, which I think is going to be real interesting in sequels.
What other sects of the Na'vi are out there besides the forest and the water? Na'vi, possibly. I mean, yeah.
I'm there's probably going to be. I got a feeling there's going to be some that are straight up just in the air almost that are just only use the bird type things. I'm pretty sure that there's probably some air nomads or something. Mm-hmm. They're gonna incorporate something.
Different avatar, by the way.
Yeah.
Air nomads.
Yeah.
Let's get the earthbenders and firebenders in here.
Yeah,
that's a crossover for you.
Yeah,
the two avatars.
But yeah, I got a feeling that their whole building infrastructure on Pandora is gonna play a role at some point.
That I found interesting.
Yeah. That's what I'm like.
Even though it was, I don't want to say it was rushed. Mm-hmm. It's a script thing, but yeah, when they land on Pandora and all those machines start walking out, I'm like, this crap is about to get down.
Right.
And then it cuts to black. 1 year later, I'm like, well, that was underwhelming. Mm-hmm. Because those first few scenes that I said was a carbon copy of they took scenes from the last movie, literally shot for shot from the last movie. Then all those mecha soldiers start walking out. I'm like, this is I'm ready, Avengers Endgame style. Let's get it going.
Right.
And then they cut to black. 1 year later, I'm like, oh, bless you.
Thank you.
So I'm like, 1 year later. Really?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
But again, That's what Disney and 20th Century going to like. That's what 3, 4, and 5 is supposed to be. Come see our movie.
Oh yeah, I feel like Disney's good at building sequels and getting people bought into them. That's their lane right now. Is drawing people back in. But for this, it didn't take that much work because after the first one, it's like we want to see what's going to happen next.
I think some of this movie, what I thought suffered from it is actually a gain, is because it's been so long.
Yeah,
it's kind of refreshed people's memories of, and they reiterated through the general's point of view of like how to train, how to fly like the Na'vi and whatnot.
Yeah,
and those similarities to where, okay, let's get the audience's minds refreshed, and then 2 years later, here's like where stuff gets real. Here's our battles and whatnot. Here's how it's going to end in Pandora and how Earth might be involved, evidently,
right.
For the Na'vi, which will be interesting tackling in future movies. So, and that was a new thing they explored. And thinking about it, they never did actually go against canon, but they didn't show it in the first movies that the Na'vi can only breathe Earth atmosphere for X amount of time.
Yeah,
which wasn't explored in the last movie. But it didn't need to. There's no situation that situation was brought up.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting.
And that would make sense. That would make sense for what you were saying about how she's gonna eventually go to Earth, because even in that like lab, it was like, you know, their kids could breathe that air for so long. And then even I think something else that's gonna be important, I feel like in some of these sequels is Jake Sully's kids' hands. You remember how they were just talking about how their fingers compared to
one kid had 4 hands.
Yeah.
The one kid had 4, the rest had 5.
Yeah. I do think that there's going to be, I don't know, I just think that's going to mean something coming up. I think there's going to be, I think between Spider being a for real human, them having an adopted child that's not for real all the way, Na'vi, and then you having like a Na'vi community, I think that's going to just play a big role in stuff to come. I think, you know.
I think he's eventually going to get an Avatar body.
You think?
Eventually. I don't know what movie, I don't know how or when.
Yeah.
It just seems, unless they're going to play him up like the Tarzan character of the Na'vi. Because that was my first initial thought when he's running out into the woods and whatnot.
Yeah. I was like, he's got
I'm like, this is their version of Tarzan, essentially, in space.
Yeah. I was like, he's got some Tarzan vibes, but to me, it also has some like Rise of the Planet of the Apes vibes, I think, that it's trying to establish. I think I don't know.
Role reversal though, yeah.
Yeah. I think I've literally was like, dang, this is kind of like those Planet of the Apes movies, just a little bit. So it's gonna be. I mean, I think this. I mean, this is the movie for me. The movie was a dub. It was a dubski.
Dubski. That's a good one. Again, general thoughts for me. It wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't better than the first movie in my opinion, but it's still good. It's still enjoyable movie. Go out and see it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you to not go see it in theaters. It's not that bad where it's like, stay away from the theaters bad. So, yeah.
But I know, my friend was telling me, it's going to take they're going to have to get like a lot of people to go see it to like break even, because a lot of money went into this movie.
Well, they're shooting 2, 3, 4, and 5 on back to back, which saves you.
Okay,
like 2 movies worth of budgets right there. Mm-hmm. And the movie only needs a break. Like, there's a false report that say you need to you need $2 billion to break even.
Okay, that's what I saw.
Which ultimately later on was turned out to be false. That ultimately the movie needs to make about $650 plus to break even for this particular project.
Okay.
For the future,
for the franchise,
for the whole franchise, for 2, 3, 4, and 5, maybe that's what he meant by $2 billion combined for all of them.
Yeah.
That's probably what.
That's
probably what I meant. Not for a movie to make $2 billion as your breaking even point.
To me,
that movie would have to be more expensive than Avengers Endgame, the reshooting of Justice League, Pirates of the Caribbean 3, which was a behemoth of a movie.
Yeah. So that makes sense. If it's like the whole franchise from 2 to 5.
Yeah.
That would make more. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense then.
Yeah.
I was like, $2 billion. There's no. I'm gonna have to buy a lot of movie tickets. I'm like, that's why I saw it in 3D.
Which is why going back to our earlier point with Spider-Man: No Way Home and Top Gun: Maverick, is this thing going to have a 45-day window, or James Cameron said, I need this movie in theaters for months.
Yeah.
At least until Ant-Man comes out in February for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
At least between, that's about 3 months roughly.
Yeah.
December, January, February, 3 months. Roughly 3 months before Ant-Man Quantumania comes out.
Yeah.
So